Hello, and welcome to this training on harassment and discrimination. The Washington Consulting Group has a responsibility to assure that all of its employees have a safe and productive work environment. Each WCG employee is required to understand what constitutes harassment and what your responsibilities are in avoiding, preventing, and reporting it. We will review our policy with respect to harassment and discrimination. We will define the elements that constitute workplace harassment, define and provide examples of sexual harassment, review how to avoid discrimination and harassment, describe your responsibilities and the actions to take when presented with discrimination or harassment, provide answers to frequently asked questions, and list the avenues for reporting suspected harassment or discrimination. We are an equal opportunity affirmative action employer. We are committed to equal employment opportunities in recruitment, hiring, promotion, training, compensation, and disciplinary action with regard to the terms and conditions of employment. We will not discriminate on the basis of race, religion, national origin, color, age over 40, sex, sexual orientation, disability, veteran status, or any other legally protected characteristics. We will also make reasonable accommodations for qualified individuals with known disabilities unless doing so will result in an undue hardship. We are committed to providing a work environment that is free of discrimination and harassment. Harassment, which is a form of discrimination, is based on an individual's sex, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, national origin, age, disability status, sexual orientation, religion, or any other legally protected characteristic and will not be tolerated. Harassment, whether overt or subtle, can serve to create an offensive work environment and is very prohibited. Employees who feel they've been discriminated against and/or harassed based on sex or any of the other areas we've discussed must report the matter to their supervisor, human resources, or compliance committee member. You can also call the WCG hotline. Additionally, any employee who becomes aware of any possible unlawful discrimination should also contact their supervisor, human resources, etc. All complaints will be investigated in as discreet and confidential fashion as possible. No one's employment status with WCG will be adversely affected as a result of bringing complaints of discrimination and/or harassment. Here are the numbers for the Chief Financial Officer, the Aviation Group Vice President, and the HR Manager, if you need to contact any of them. What is workplace harassment? It's anything that creates fear, intimidates, ostracizes, psychologically or physically threatens, embarrasses, ridicules, or in some other way unreasonably overburdens or precludes an employee from reasonably performing their work. Workplace harassment can take many forms. We normally think of it as sexual harassment, but it's much more. Harassment can be based on any of these categories: race, sex, sexual orientation, age, veteran status, national origin, disability, color, or religion. Now let's discuss sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a form of illegal discrimination that involves unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other unwanted verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. Sexual harassment can be between a supervisor and the employee, an employee to another employee, or a third party to the employee. It can be male to male, female to male, male to male, or female to male, and female to female. It does not matter the sex of the person, it matters that the harassment was sexual in nature. There are two forms of sexual harassment: hostile work environment and quid pro quo. Elements of the law that define a hostile work environment are as follows. It is based on sex. This can focus not only on the male to female relationship, but also same-sex. It is unwelcomed. It is sufficiently severe or pervasive. Severe refers to how damaging the conduct is, while pervasive refers to how often it occurs. It is imputable on some factual basis. In other words, it can be proven. Elements of the law that define a quid pro quo, or this for that, are as follows. It is used as a term or condition of employment. It affects the decisions about a person's job or career. It interferes with the individual's work performance or creates an offensive work environment. This is a list of several examples of conduct that is considered harassment. Pin-ups, pictures or calendars, such as partially naked individuals, people in suggestive clothing, cartoons, anything of a sexual nature. Jokes, any kind of jokes that are offensive or degrading or sexual undertones are not allowed. Verbal, inappropriate comments or propositions. Unwanted comments about someone's sexuality, comments that are gender related, and inappropriate touching, fondling, touching someone in an unwelcome manner. In addition to emails, stories, jokes of a sexual nature that would be sent over email, repeated propositions for meeting outside of the workplace socially, reprisals for refusing advances. It could include assigning extra work, continually assigning duties that are unusually unpleasant or not the person's normal duties, or taking revenge. Any kind of these examples can be considered harassment. How can you avoid harassment? Respect the individual differences that make up your coworkers and the community around you. The way we interact or treat our coworkers should not only reflect the way we want to be treated, but also anyone else in our lives. Respect your coworkers' differences. Keep in mind that not everyone has the same beliefs as you. Some things that you may find appropriate could offend someone else, so keep that in mind. As an employee, you have a responsibility to respect your coworkers and avoid comments and actions that could be offensive. Always err on the side of caution. What if harassment does occur? Any employee who is a victim or a witness of any possible unlawful discrimination or harassment should initially confront the individual making the offensive action, then immediately advise their supervisor, human resources, or the compliance committee. If the individual feels threatened or finds it inappropriate to initially confront the offending party, they can go directly to their supervisor or human resources or the committee. What if harassment occurs? You need to confront the person. Confront them and tell them to stop. Many people are unaware that their actions are offensive. So explain what you find offensive and tell them to stop. Report it. Report the incidents to your supervisor and the other people that I've mentioned, and write out the facts. Be fair and be specific. Include actions, dates, times, and witnesses. All complaints will be investigated in as discreet and confidential fashion as possible. No one's status will be adversely affected as a result of bringing complaints of discrimination or harassment. Employees should also comply with any investigation and state their knowledge of the facts in an honest and clear fashion. We want to resolve these kinds of issues as quickly as we can. We also have an employee assistance program that you can reach out to. The employee assistance program number is 1-800-386-7055. The website is www.ibhworklife.com. The username is Matters and the password is WLM70101. Here are some frequently asked questions in reference to harassment. What are some of the motives for harassment? The motives can be power, using sexually intimidating conduct to push individuals down, obtain sex, or protect one's ego. Must an employee suffer psychological harm in order for an action to constitute harassment? No. The Supreme Court has ruled that if a reasonable person looks at the conduct and finds it offensive, it constitutes harassment. How prevalent are cases involving men as victims of sexual harassment? Only 10% of cases so far have men as the victims, but this is increasing every year and becoming more common. What are some of the reactions to harassment? Ignoring the harassing conduct is rarely successful. Submitting or accepting the harassing conduct, this is usually done out of fear. Actively participating in the harassment, it doesn't stop the harassment, and it frequently makes things worse because they think that you enjoy the harassment. Internally angry, that usually leads to an outburst later on. Again, none of these are good options. What are the best options for people who feel that they're victims of sexual harassment? Become educated on sexual harassment. Stop the conduct immediately by confronting the individual. Accept it and hope it goes away. That's the worst thing you can do because it most likely will not go away. You need to confront it and you need to report it to your supervisor, the committee, human resources, or call the hotline. When is it appropriate to use confrontation techniques? It's always appropriate to confront the harasser and inform them that the conduct is illegal and inappropriate, but do it in a professional manner. If you're not comfortable with the confrontation, take it to your supervisor or someone up the chain of command. What are supervisors' responsibilities concerning sexual harassment discrimination? First, they must also become educated about what sexual harassment is. Then they must educate the people working for them. Most importantly, they cannot condone it, and they must stop harassment right away. What do I do if I have questions about the training program or any aspect in relation to discrimination or harassment? Feel free at any time to contact your supervisor, a committee member, human resources, or call the hotline. If the harassment or discrimination does not involve me directly, but I observe or become aware of the conduct, what are my responsibilities? As an employee, you have the responsibility to report all matters of harassment that you become aware of. Keep in mind that if management is not aware of the appropriate conduct, they cannot correct the situation. What happens if someone makes false accusations? Reports of harassment and discrimination are promptly and thoroughly investigated. If it is found during the investigation that individuals are making false accusations or are not honest during the investigating process, appropriate corrective action will be taken. What kind of notice is given to individuals engaging in harassment? First of all, sexual harassment will not be tolerated at WCG. Prompt and thorough investigations will be conducted on all valid complaints. Any employee who is found to have engaged in sexual harassment or any type of harassment will be subject to appropriate sanctions, including termination of employment. Individuals can be held personally responsible and liabilities associated with harassment. Retaliatory action against a complaint person by the perpetrator will not be tolerated, and management will take swift action to correct such behavior. This is the end of the harassment training. Thank you for attending the training. If you do have any questions, contact your supervisor or human resources. We want all of your comments and we want you to feel comfortable communicating with us. Sign and date the acknowledgement form and fax it to 800-982-7001 or scan and email it to mb@fosterthomas.com. Thank you very much.